Like it's working. Okay, welcome everybody to the latest driver's edition of Beyond the Wheel podcast. And today we're going to talk about kind of like a hodgepodge of topics, I guess, all related to RVing, of course. But first, let me say hi to Kenny and see how everything's going down where he's at right now.
Hey, Sean, everything's good on my end of the country. We just did the time change. Well, I should say you just went and did the spring ahead. I am in Arizona, where apparently they do not do that. And it's kind of strange. My phone did it and messed me all up this morning. I was all confused this morning, but
Oh, your phone changed?
my phone changed. Sabrina's did not. So
Oh,
when I woke up this morning, I was like, wow, I really slept in, which is unusual for me. But then I realized, oh no, my phone's got the wrong time in it. So I gained you lost an hour this morning. I gained an hour back because I was on the wrong time.
yeah, and the bad thing was I drank coffee, Starbucks coffee between 6 and 7 last night, so I couldn't go to sleep till about 1:30 in the morning. So I lost more than an hour.
Yeah, nothing good about that.
Yeah. So
But
we
what?
got some exciting things to talk about today. Um, I guess the first one, because it's a hot new topic with a lot associated with it, is the 5G that's starting to roll out, but it seems like it's going to be a while before it starts to affect us RVers that don't stay in big cities.
Yeah, there's two things that I'm excited for. It's the 5G and the StarLink. So Sean and I are going to talk a little bit about what the differences are between the two, and then the difference between the 5G and the 4G, which we just learned, or I should say, Sean learned, and he told me about. I didn't really realize, I hear everybody talk about 5G and how much better it is and how much faster it is. But the thing that we haven't heard anybody really talk about is the that it performs on a shorter wavelength. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and what it means. But I guess first thing would be the speed. That's a huge deal with the 5G. When we did a little bit of research on it, I was surprised. I actually had to read it twice because 5 speed is able to deliver up to 20 gigabytes per second, GP or Gbps. And when I first read it, I was like, well, that's not any faster than 4G. And then I realized, oh, they're saying gig, not the mega. So I was like, that is a huge, that will be a huge difference. That will be so much better for us as RVers for when we're, well, you and I, Sean, like how we do a lot of work remotely. For one, that's huge. But I wouldn't mind seeing my Netflix and my YouTube videos and everything in a higher grade, visually, and get that 1080p all the time. So
Yeah.
that's a big deal. I mean, the fact that it is faster, but then you have found a, I would say maybe a kink in the armor or a flaw because of that shorter wavelength. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so 5G can carry a lot of data and it supports way more people or devices, I guess, using the system than 4G. So 4G can support 4,000 devices per square kilometer, and 5G will be able to have 1 million. But the downside is the range of the 5G is only about 1,000 feet. So it's not even 2% of 4G's range.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot more infrastructure to be able to roll out 5G because of that 1,000 foot range that they have there. That's just not very far at all.
Yeah. So really, I mean, what that relates to in like the real world is several more towers need to be built to support this 5G. So it's not just a matter of, even if they went to every tower that we have that's already on 4G and added a 5G panel to it, it wouldn't really do all that much good because the distance only at 1,000 feet, that tower can only reach 1,000 foot radius. And like Sean said, that's not even 2% of a 4G radius, which that's, yeah, I think it's going to be a long time because of that, because we need so many more towers. I think it'll be a long time before we really see a massive rollout where it's really mainstream for us as RVers to be able to take advantage of that 5G. Maybe if we're in a city, but how often are you really, for me anyway, or us in general, how often are you really in a city format to take advantage of it, like, New York or something like that? Those areas aren't really typically RV friendly.
Yeah. And I mean, for RV parks, it's going to be a long time, I think. Just think about, geez, I don't know where we stayed in Harrisonburg, Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
at KOA. There's nothing else within 1,000 feet of that except for farmland.
Right,
So
right.
they would have to have almost like a dedicated 5G, a couple of them in there because it was more than 1,000 feet.
Yeah.
Uh, so just for that one park, they would have to have a couple of 5G relays or whatever they call those things to be able to provide 5G to the park.
Yeah, and real quickly, I want to say hi to Tina and thank her for joining us from chilly Philly.
Yeah.
I know all about that. I'm born and raised in Philadelphia, and I do not miss the winters there at all.
And we
But
have
yeah,
more
you're
winter coming over here on the East Coast. So,
I will be headed East Coast, leaving Arizona tomorrow, leaving these nice warm temperatures. We're going up to 62 degrees, sunny, and 18% humidity today, Sean. Not to make you jealous. Or you, Tina. Tina.
so I
Um,
think I think it's going to take several years before 5G is rolled out in any sort of manner that um, RVers will see a consistent benefit from it. And
yeah,
then you also have to invest in, devices that can handle 5G as well. So, you'll have to upgrade probably some of your devices.
yeah, I agree, Sean. It's not looking like it's going to be anything anytime soon. But there will be another option. It sounds like now Elon Musk, with who's known for Tesla mainly, but he's also part of the SpaceX program and StarLink. And StarLink is his project where they're working on an antenna that will be able to attach to RVs, tractor trailers, boats, and airline services. And it will be able to provide all those types of units with high speed internet. This is something that he tweeted out, and he wanted to clarify that the antenna will not be used to connect Teslas to the Starlink. He said this is I guess he thought that would be too much. There's only be several. I guess in the future, he's looking at, just be too much to handle if every single Tesla was connected. So he's thinking of more of the larger vehicles, the RVs, boats, planes, and things like that. And I kind of like that idea better than the 5G because wherever you go, you'll have your own personal antenna and you'll always get that coverage from the Starlink, compared to relying on being near a tower with the 5G. I think, the Starlink for RVers, I think is, a year or so out, but I bet you it's more tangible, if that's the correct way to say it, than waiting on the 5G network to be built all across America. I think it'd be a more streamlined idea is let's get an antenna on our RV that can pick up the satellites that are already up there, type of thing. I don't know if you agree or disagree.
There are some RVers that are part of the testing program. So
Oh,
I've seen
okay.
a couple of RVers post on social media with their Starlink box. So hopefully they'll be able to give the rest of us feedback on how well it works. But I guess the download and upload speeds are pretty fast.
Yeah,
So
that's what it sounds like. And at first, when I heard about it, I was like, oh, I wonder if it would be able to be used while in motion, or will we have to be parked somewhere to use it? But it sounds like it'll be something that you can use in motion because they're I didn't know that they were testing them on the RVs, but I did know that they were testing them in airplanes. And we are nowhere near airplane speed down here on the ground with our RVs. We're barely automotive speeds. So I think that I don't know cost wise. They haven't mentioned anything about cost wise or anything like that. But I think that would be a great device for RV, especially if you're interested in boondocking and dry camping. You know, sure, you do those things to kind of get away from it all, but it's nice to be connected and work from a nice quiet area like that. I think that to me is more in the Starlink program is more interesting to me than the 5G program, because we already have the 4G. We already, you know, after Sean did his research, we already know that the 4G already has the larger network and a longer reach and coverage. And even the 4G, even with its greater coverage, there are still tons of dead spots.
Yeah.
So it doesn't give me a lot of faith in that 5G.
Yeah, I think it's going to take a long time to roll out. But I guess one thing about the Starlink is, and I don't know the answer to this, but is it going to be, will you have to power that antenna through AC power, or can you
Mm.
use DC power? You know, how's that going to work? Like, I'm just thinking about for boondocking and stuff.
Yeah. You know what, Sean, for some reason I just assumed DC, but I don't know why I would. I was just thinking if it's more than just an antenna. So you might be right, Sean. It might be more like something that draws a little bit more, and maybe it's on an AC power, because it's not a disc where it's completely smooth all the way around. I don't think it's more like a hexagon, but it is a decent sized antenna. So you might be right. I was thinking more of like how my HD antenna is in the RV. That's on DC. So I thought maybe it would just power similar to that. It could, because actually now I'm thinking about, my HD antenna is about the same size as what this disc is for the Starlink. I guess it just depends on the components inside and how
Yeah.
much power it really does draw. Man, I'm hoping it's DC. You know, when he's talking about mobile units and stuff like that, like a boat, you know, it'd just be so much better if it could run off of DC, and we can do it easily off of solar and our batteries and everything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, but there is hope because if it is AC and you need to run that AC power while you're boondocking, brings us to our next topic.
Almost like
Battle-born
we planned it.
batteries brought out their game changers.
Yeah, literally. That's what I love the name of their new battery, the game changer. I like it a lot better than the individual battery names, because I'm getting used to saying it, but one's the BB8D and the other one's the BBGC3. So I like the name game changer a lot better.
Yeah. And
So
these
the
are 270 amp hour batteries, so that's a lot of power in that battery.
in a single package, which is really huge for for RVers. I would say, especially for like van life, where you're limited on space. So I did some quick math, and I think I'm correct when I do my quick math, but I have two Battleborn batteries right now in my stairwell. I removed my two old lead acid batteries. I replaced them with the two Battleborn batteries that are each 100 amp usable amp hours a piece, giving me 200 usable amp hours. It looks to me, when I look at the dimensions of the BB8D, that it would fit where my two Battleborn batteries are, where my stock batteries used to be. So that means I could pull these out and replace it with one of those new batteries and get another 70 amps of usable power. I wouldn't do that now because I love my Battleborn batteries. I'm not pulling these out to replace them. But if the new ones were out at the time, I would have done that. I would have gone with the 270 in that same footprint and get an extra 70 amps of power out of them. You can
Yeah,
never have enough, Sean, is what I think is what I'm saying.
that's nice to have that extra power in the same footprint.
Yeah, we've never ran our Battleborn batteries out. Like it's just never happened. We've gone days on our Battleborn batteries. But that being said, I'm always about, when it comes to power, water, any of those things, I'm, the closer you can get to unlimited, the better.
We have run ours out. So,
Oh, you have.
yeah.
Well, but you use yours in a more demanding way than I use mine. You had yours able to run your AC, your microwave, and things like that. Like you. I wouldn't say you get more use out of your Battleborn batteries than I do, but you were more demanding on them. I don't have mine wired up to the microwave or AC unit, so I just run, standard things: my water pump, my lights, my furnace, my refrigerator. So,
And soon maybe your Starlink.
and soon, hopefully, StarLink.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say that the most power hungry item I have in the RV for the batteries would be the furnace. And you might think, well, that's not all that power draining, but it really is, because before we had Battleborn batteries and we were running our furnace overnight in a parking lot, we ran out of power in the middle of the night, had to turn on our generator, recharge our lead acid batteries so that we could continue to run our furnace. The furnace does take on really cold nights. When it's running, the furnace and the fan and everything, it's pulling something like 8 to 10 amps uh, per hour. My lead acid batteries, I think I'm being generous with the fact that they had 70 amps of usable power. I'm not even sure if they did. I think I'm being really generous
Yeah.
with that number. So anything more than 7 hours, but 7 hours of the furnace plus my lights being on and running the inverter to watch TV. Yeah, we woke up in a kind of a bad mood because our batteries had died and we were cold in the RV.
Well, we're supposed to be camping next weekend, and a couple of the nights in the weather forecast look like it's going to go down to 28 degrees.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Well, as a comparison, so now with the Battleborn batteries, Sabrina and I were recently in Oklahoma. It was 9 degrees. We were unplugged, and that furnace was running like crazy, and we still had more than 50% of our Battleborn battery power left,
Oh, really?
even in 9 degrees. Yep. So that furnace was running all night, and I woke up. I checked the batteries. We used the Victron battery monitor, and we still had over 50%. I think we were close to 60% of our power was still left, and that's just a totally I always say, someone laughed at me because I said that I had battery anxiety before. And it's true. I did have battery anxiety before because of that one night that we ran our batteries out and woke up in the middle of the night freezing cold. I mean, luckily it didn't do damage. We could have froze our pipes. We could have froze our plumbing or anything like that. But luckily, we did wake up and no damage was done. But it does give you a little bit of anxiety. But somebody actually wrote to me and they laughed at me and said, come on, you're being a little over the top with this. Battery anxiety isn't such a thing. I think it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And the one thing that people should know about these new batteries is that the 100 amp batteries weigh 31 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
These are a little heavier, as expected, at 75 pounds. So you may need help if you purchase these. You may need help lifting them into their spots, just because they are heavy. But you expect that with 3 times the power.
Yeah.
It just takes more to do that. But just be aware that they are going to be a little bit heavy.
Yeah, I think you would definitely want a hand. Like it, even I would. I consider myself to be fairly physically strong, but 75 pounds to try to pick up and your stairways in a way, that's where my batteries go anyway, in the stairwell, and then to lower them down into that position, that wouldn't be that great. Well, Sean knows I have a bad back. I wouldn't be able to do it. I could do it, but I would be hurting for days later. So yeah, definitely take Sean's advice and get somebody to give you a hand installing the batteries. Other than that, though, they're very simple. They still just have I like that fact that you won't. It's only 2 terminals. It should be very quick and easy to connect with. No head scratching, as I like to say. I like things simple. So, and these are able to be completely discharged. The 100% of them are able to be, so that 270 is all usable. And every time I say that on my YouTube channel or to somebody, they say, oh, but it's not recommended. Nobody should ever discharge their batteries to zero. You can discharge a Battleborn battery to zero, and because you're not actually discharging it to zero. Battleborn batteries rates their batteries differently in the fact that that number, that 270, is usable. There is more power in that battery that they don't tell us what it is. Actually, we don't know what the real amount is, but you can use the full 270 amps, and then the battery monitor system that's built into the batteries cuts it off, leaving X amount of reserve that Battleborn batteries won't tell us. Is it 30 more amps in there? Is it really that would be my guess, that it's really a 300 amp battery, but Battleborn batteries cuts it off at 270. That would just be my guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. But and the other benefit is they charge 5 times faster than a lead
Yeah.
acid battery. So, I mean, even if you do run it down, they charge back up relatively quickly as long as you have the appropriate items to charge them. They'll charge pretty fast. So, that's a bonus.
Yeah. So if you've been looking at batteries and you might have a smaller, this is where I see the advantage anyway. Like the smaller the vehicle, the more the more storage deficient you are. These really come in handy because you get a lot of power in a relatively small package. The other thing that we want to talk about Battleborn batteries, and it's not we're not talking about Battleborn batteries a lot today because they're our sponsor. It just so happens that they had a lot going on.
Yeah.
Is that Battleborn batteries has teamed up with Care Camps, and they are doing an auction tomorrow, starting at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. They are going to do an auction of some of their open box components, and everything earned from the auction will go towards Care Camps. And at the end of the auction, Battleborn batteries will donate 100% of those proceeds to the Care Camps and then match whatever it is. I believe up to $5,000 or something like that. And Sean and I thought this was a very nice thing to do. We both already own, as you just heard, Battleborn batteries and very nice setups in our RVs. So, in Beyond the Wheels name, Beyond the Wheel podcast name, we were able to go into that auction page and just do a donation. So we just did a straight up donation. We didn't auction on anything. But we just thought it was a nice thing that Battleborn batteries was doing. And that's the link that I put here in the comment section if you're interested in checking out what they are auctioning off, or if you're interested in doing a donation. There's a button there, either donate or auction, all on the same page. And the Care Camps, Sean, I'm doing it again. I told Sean I wasn't going to continue to talk and I was going to let him speak, but
You're on a roll. You're on a roll.
but Care Camps is a foundation that helps children with cancer experience hope, happiness, and healing power of outdoors through camping. So it's children with cancer that want to enjoy the great outdoors and to get the camping experience, and that's what Care Camps does. They help. It's in a sense, these children are sick. Let's take them out for the weekend. Let them have a good time. Forget about their problems for a little bit and just enjoy being a kid and enjoying the outdoors. So I think it's a great foundation, and I was kind of excited when I saw that Battleborn Batteries was doing this. So I said to Sean, I said, "Oh, I think we should talk about it and do a donation, since we don't actually need any equipment for the RVs, but at least they're offering a donation." So I think, yeah, all the proceeds from the auction go to it, and then Battleborn batteries will match that.
And then, the other thing, and not just because they sponsor our podcast, but they're always doing fundraiser or donation or charity type things in the community. I mean, even in Reno, they used to do a coat drive for the homeless people where they would collect coats or money to buy coats for the homeless living there, or the underprivileged, I guess, in the Reno area. So they're always doing things like that. They're just not, they're not hoarding all their money. They're giving back to the communities that they serve. So I think that's really good.
Yeah, it's a good company. I've always thought that we are, I guess you could say, we're a little partial, I guess, in the fact that they do sponsor us. We are also, I consider us to be friends with the two owners, Dennis and Sean. We got a good relationship with them. Sean Nichols actually sent Sabrina a box of N95 masks when he found out that she was running low on masks and we were having a hard time getting masks. Sabrina works in the hospital. So, and I said, oh, we really appreciate this because it was nervous times. And I said, we'll make sure that we do something on social media about this, letting the people know that, you guys were able to he sent us a whole case of them. And he said, no, I'd rather you not tell anybody. He's like, and Sean said to me, he's like, I think it's just nice enough to do the good deed. We don't need to publicize that we're doing the good deed. And I actually disagree with him. So I think I disagree. I think if you're ever doing a good deed for the auctions, the donations and stuff like that, I don't think you necessarily need to tell people how much you're doing or how much you're spending. But I think just the fact that you're doing it kind of encourages other people to do it. The fact that they know somebody's doing this, let me look into it and maybe I can help too. So, I mean, Sabrina and I often donate to the shelter where we adopted our little small dog from. And I make it known that we do that because I'm hoping other people will do it as well. We don't talk about how much we donate. I think there is a difference. So I think it's good that they do stuff like that. I know they want to be modest about it, but they do a lot in their own community, and they just help as much as they can.
And also, I think you said, Kenny, that KOA also does
Yep.
stuff for care camps as
Yeah.
well.
KOA and care.
Campground organizations.
Sorry, Sean, I stepped all over you.
That's all right.
Yeah, you're right though. KOA and care camps do a lot of work together, and to the point that they do so much together that I think care camps might even have been founded by KOA. I think I think KOA might have started the foundation. That's
Oh, okay.
probably something I should have looked into, but maybe somebody listening knows for sure, or I can go back and double check that and put it in the show notes. But yeah, so KOA does a lot with care camps, whether they started the foundation or they just happen to do a lot with them. But yeah, another really good company, and we have no affiliation with KOA at all. I personally, Sabrina and I, we just really like KOA. I think Sean is a big fan of KOA
Yeah.
too. I
Staying
stayed.
one next weekend.
You are?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they're great campgrounds. Sabrina and I have stayed at over 30 different KOAs. And the reason why we do so is because they are consistently good. We've never had a bad experience at one of them. So that is I mean, for that many locations and never having a bad experience, staff is always friendly. The sites are always nice. They're easy to book with their app. You just jump
Yeah.
on. And again, this is not a sponsored anything, but it's just quick and easy for us to hop on the KOA app, book a site, even an hour before we arrive. Other campgrounds, it's the campground world is just not up to date as far as like the hotel. If you want to book at another campground, often you either have to call or send them an email, and then they email you back or they call you back. There's no, oh, I want to stay here, click. Like a hotel would be, but KOA makes it more like a hotel where you can just do it right online. You pick how many days you want, you pick the type of site you want, and now KOA is even letting you pick the site that you want, but there is a fee to do that.
Uh,
So maybe we'll try to get KOA. We've had KOA on the show in the past. Maybe we can try to get them back on, because I think that's something fairly new, is them being able to. I don't remember ever being able to pick site, like the exact site, and that may not sound like a big deal because a lot of the often sites are similar. But for us who have a dog, that's a big deal, because if we can take a look at the map, decide what site we want, we can maybe pick a site where our door opens up to a less crowded area.
oh, yeah.
Because Belle's so hyper. She's so, what would the word be? Reactive to
Yeah.
everything. So being able to choose your site, maybe not so much for views. I mean, for
Right.
views would be nice too, but if you have a pet, that makes a big deal, I think.
Yeah, I didn't think about it that way. That is a really good thing for pet owners.
Yeah, I think so. I try to think of everything,
Even
Sean.
close to the dog park that they all have.
Oh yeah, I didn't think of that. Right
Yeah.
after I said I try to think of everything. I didn't even think about getting a spot near the dog park. Yeah. I was going to
Or
say I think of everything, and anything I'd miss, you get.
yeah, or if you want to be close to the pool.
That's your thing right there.
Yeah.
You love those pools.
Yeah.
I do too. Um, Not as much as you do, though. You every time you go to a campground, you tell me about the great experience at the pool and
Yeah.
the hot tub. You love the
Yeah.
hot tub too.
Yeah.
I like the hot tub for my back.
Good way to meet people.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, just camping in general. But yeah, I would imagine that you're right about that with the hot tub.
Yeah.
See that I'm shy though, Sean. I know I don't seem shy, but I something about hot tub is just too personal for me. If I see people, I like going to a hot tub, but if I see people in there already, I won't go. If
Ah.
if I'm in the hot tub and people join me, that's fine. That doesn't seem to bother me, but I'm too shy to just walk in once somebody's already in there. It must I might need to see a psychiatrist. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I was gonna
Because in my head it's two totally different things.
I was gonna say they got medication for that.
So you don't mind either way. If somebody's there, yeah.
No.
I don't know what that's about with me. Yeah. The same thing though, just
Well,
in
you can just even if it's full, you can just kind of squeeze in.
See, I won't do that. Like I think to me, I don't know what it is. I'm kind of like that, I would say, about everything. If we're outside of the campground and somebody talks to me and starts the conversation, just like I am here, I'll never let them get a word in. I will talk their ear off. But I will never go up to somebody in a campground and start a conversation.
Hmm. Interesting.
Just yeah. Interesting, mental. Yeah, same thing. I don't know. I don't know how to put I don't yeah. I consider it just to be a form of shyness
Yeah,
in some way. But I don't know.
that's true. I think when we met, it was actually Julie that went up and started talking to you guys.
Yes. Yep, it was. Yep. Julie definitely initiated the conversation. And that's how it is for for most of the people we know. They usually initiate. If it wasn't for other people, I probably wouldn't have any friends because I don't start conversations with anybody. Yeah, you're right though. It was Julie. But Julie, I consider to be a very outgoing person. I don't think Julie would. Julie's not shy. I don't consider Julie
No,
shy.
no.
Yeah, she's a extrovert.
Yes.
Maybe, maybe.
I think compared to me, yes.
Yeah, you're not. I wouldn't even consider you shy, but you're more reserved, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So I guess we can jump into the next topic
Sure.
is tow rating or tow capacity. And before I started looking into this, I thought it was something very simple, but it turns out to be very complicated to figure out if you are within your recommended tow capacities. And I guess it really happens. It's really a bigger concern for people that are towing travel trailers and fifth wheels because you want to be safe. And the last thing you want to happen is to be overweight and not be able to stop, which is one of the important factors with tow ratings is the ability to stop. And if you don't stop in time and cause an injury or even worse, a fatality for someone, that's going to weigh on you for a long time, knowing that you could have done something about it. And you could also be charged like as a criminal for knowingly disregarding the weight, the towing capacity of your tow vehicle, and maybe even overloading your travel trailer or fifth wheel if that was also the case. So it is important to figure out what your tow capacities are and stick to them. And it's tricky because like the curb weight of a Chevy is determined by the factory or by the manufacturer different than a Ford or a Dodge. So like Chevy I'm familiar with because that's the truck that we have. They determine the curb weight by the weight of a standard truck of your model without any options added on, and a driver weighing 150 pounds which how often does that happen in America? And uh, all the fluids except for fuel. So just adding fuel to a 30-gallon fuel tank adds adds weight. So you may think you have 1,400 pounds to spare, but you got to read the fine print to see what how exactly they determined that and what you need to include that they didn't include already. So that was a shock to me. So having to go through and do all the math to figure that out. Of course, you could just go to a scale and get on the scale and weigh it with you and your wife or your partner in it and your stuff in it and see what it weighs, and then do the same thing with the trailer. And then the determining the tongue weight on the on the on the hitch, whether it's a gooseneck, a fifth wheel, or a, bumper pull or whatever. There's no easy way to do that until we talk to WaySafe.
Right.
Of course, that make it very easy, but it's it really is a complicated process.
When you say that you can be charged for it, Sean, do they charge you for like reckless endangerment? Do you know, is that how they view it, that you were being reckless as far as not staying within spec?
Yeah, I think you can be charged even with. I'm no lawyer. I don't. Just from what I've read and watched, I think you can be charged with like vehicular manslaughter.
Wow. See, that's
Yeah,
serious. Yeah, you don't want
yeah.
that.
I mean, you could go to prison.
Yeah, I mean, one, obviously you don't want to be charged with that, but two, you don't want to be the person that's responsible for the manslaughter either. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like yeah, I agree with you. I think the best way, because you said that the manufacturers all set up their weight ratings differently is to be weighed.
yeah,
You can go to like a cat scale. It's not very difficult. It can be intimidating sometimes because they're in the truck sections of places. But I've even been to like junkyards, and they have scales for the trucks, and you can ask them, hey, is it all right, on maybe a weekday to come in here and just have my vehicle weighed? So Sabrina and I have been weighed a few times in our RV because it's difficult. There's no real way of knowing once you fill up your fresh water tank and you got your chairs and your uh, whatever else, bicycles, and once you don't know we're not like individually weighing everything that goes in, and we don't know our empty weight, like our true empty weight either. So there was no way to do it other than, I believe, than to hop on a scale and figure it out. And I do recommend doing that with a full tank of gas and a full tank of water,
yeah,
because in like an RV like ours, 60 gallons of water, that makes quite a difference.
yeah,
And an 80-gallon gas tank makes quite a difference. So
yeah.
I think that's the best way is getting weighed.
And you can even go somewhere that will determine the weight on each of your axles.
And that's even better.
Yeah, if you're able to do that, that's really good because you may be underweight overall, but you may be putting a lot of weight on a particular axle,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not safe either. So, um, determining what's on each of the axles is really helpful as well.
Yeah. I know Escapees in Texas, Livingston, Texas, they will do a four corner way, and then they'll help you determine items in your RV that need to be shifted to help balance out the weight so that you're not too much on one side. Because, the again, you got your water tanks and then you put your stuff in your cargo bays. What's the chances of everything magically coming out to weighing evenly across everywhere? And that'll adjust that can interfere with your gas mileage, your stopping, your turning, and just overall performance pretty much in every way. So
Yeah. And then I didn't realize either the the way you load the stuff in makes a huge difference as well. So, um, if you do have a travel trailer, a fifth wheel, just look at how the manufacturer recommends placing the load within that trailer
okay.
while you're going down the road, because I mean, if you're not distributing the load correctly, that can mess you up while you're driving as well.
Yeah. especially with the travel trailers and the fifth wheels. Like you just taught me a new term not that long ago called pin weight, which I never heard before. I've always heard the term tongue weight when you're hooked to a trailer hitch, but pin weight is the weight that goes into the bed of your truck. And you said that's very difficult to measure. So it's important to know these things, though. I mean, and then that comes into play as far as where your weight is loaded in your trailer. Is it towards the front, towards the
Right.
back? Is is that fifth wheel pin weight? Remind me again, Sean. So on a tongue weight, you want to be 10% of the weight of the trailer. Is there a percentage that you're going for when doing the pin weight?
So this is pretty interesting. I think most people just throw out 20%
Okay.
for a fifth wheel or a gooseneck.
Okay.
But when I was reading the Chevrolet towing guide, they said to use 16.7% as a calculation.
How
So,
how do you get that precise?
so
That's
again,
what I want to
on
know.
the manufacturer of the vehicle, I think.
Okay. I'm just wondering because there's no scale or way to determine, like, how do you know how heavy the front of your fifth wheel is when you lay it onto something like the bed of your truck?
Right, so you just take the overall weight. So for my Arctic Fox, it's 13,400.
Okay.
Get 16.7% of that, and that should be close to what the pin weight is.
Okay. Okay. Oh, geez. But that still sounds it, it's not easy. Is after I watched your video on tow rating and capacity, I remember thinking I was like, I bet you 75% of the people out here are overweight in some way, either tongue weight, overall tow capacity, cargo. Yeah, there's no way everybody's checking all of these boxes when towing. I don't think.
I mean, I carried two 50 amp power cords, and those things are heavy.
Heavy.
Yeah, so I mean, there were times for sure that we overloaded our fifth wheel.
That's a good point. I don't think people realize how heavy those 50 amp power cords are. The 30 amp ones have some weight to them. Those 50 amp ones, they're heavy, heavy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I did look. So after your video, I did look up tongue weight for flat towing because that's what I do. I flat tow, and I've never heard anybody talk about tongue weight while flat towing.
Hmm.
And the reason being is it makes sense after I read it. So I actually found the information from a company called eTrailer.com.
Okay. Yeah, they're pretty
They're
good with that stuff.
Yeah, they're a pretty big company and they're good about answering questions and stuff like that. So when flat towing, the tongue weight is almost zero because you're relying on the car being all four down. There is no downward force. The
Uh-huh.
tires of the car support the weight of it. So then the tongue weight only becomes the weight of the actual hitch itself of your tow bar.
Uh-huh.
And they don't really consider that even to be to fall into play anywhere. So if anybody's flat towing and you're wondering, oh, I wonder about tongue weight, there's nothing to determine with tongue weight when flat towing. Now that probably is not true about a car being towed behind a motorhome when loaded up onto a dolly. I would imagine that does change a little bit, and there must be some type of tongue weight to be contributed to.
Yeah, because they usually those trailers don't usually have a front axle and a back axle. It's usually on the back.
Yeah. So I wonder, uh, now that I just said it, I should have looked that up too. Does it matter? Because in a sense, you're still being supported, with wheels up. But I don't, to me, in my mind, the contraption is much larger and it's got to fall into some type of play, as
Yeah,
far as maybe how high you set it, how people have like the drop down hitches. Something's got to come into play when doing a trailer or a front dolly puller or something like that. I forget what they
yeah.
call them exactly. Something like that.
And then, if you add things like I have a fifth wheel RV, so I have a fifth wheel hitch in the bed of my truck, and they're not light. So I had to figure out the weight of that, and then luckily the manufacturer lists the weight. and you got to calculate all that into play too.
Yeah. And the fact too that I don't, just because a vehicle says it tows, your truck is a beast. It's like 27,000 pounds. I don't think that means you want to be at 27,000 pounds tow capacity all the time. That's like your max tow capacity. And I think you had read that they actually prefer, if you're towing, take your max capacity, and 80% would be a comfortable ride experience, being able to stop and have control of the vehicle. So that max capacity, I think, really is like, okay, maybe once in a while
Right.
it can handle it, but not constantly.
Right. Yeah, and the big thing is again being able to stop.
Stop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you know how people are on the road. Think they act like your car is like a sports car convertible that can stop on a dime, but
It's
it's just
definitely not.
impossible.
Yeah, it's definitely not. We've had I wouldn't say close calls, but we've had times where we've had people step out in front of us off of a sidewalk, like jaywalking, and I've had to like lock up the brakes, and luckily we have been able to stop, but they don't know that. I mean, they
Right.
don't even think about it that, oh, it's a large vehicle. Plus, they can't see that we're towing a vehicle behind us. And luckily, our tow car does have an auxiliary brake system. We have something that sits on the floor that helps brake the car too. Um, but yeah, it's still a lot of weight. We're 23,000 pounds to try to stop somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So it does not stop like a car at all. Actually, I would love to see a video on a car stopping from 0 to 0, or I mean from 60 to 0, and just a class A, not even a tow car behind it. And I wonder what the difference in distance is. It's got to be uh 50, 60, 70 feet, I bet you, easy.
Yeah, easy. I bet. Yeah.
A
Yeah.
couple car lengths.
Yeah, and then the other important part is your tires.
Mm-hmm. This was something that I just learned too because of you. You were doing more research on tire and the cargo capacity of a tire, and you had asked me about it, and I didn't even know what my tire was rated at. So for truck tires or anything being used to hold any type of weight and cargo, they letter them E, F, G, and H, and that gives you that tells you the letter is the amount of ply or layers that tire has. So an E is a 10 ply, F is 12 ply, G is 14 ply, and H is 16 ply. So I was pleasantly surprised to find out that my tires just happen to be H rating. So they're 16 ply. They're the max they can be. And because of the extra layers of ply, each tire with every letter that you go up can can withstand a certain amount of pounds. I think I should have looked this up, but
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
okay.
And it's because the sidewalls are much thicker.
Right. Yep. It's more actually, yeah, you're right. It had more to do with the sidewall. So like when you put weight in the cargo on it and it compresses that tire, it had more to do that the sidewall was able to keep its shape and form
Right.
while turning, cornering, even going and stopping and all that. Yeah, you're right. It had more to do with sidewall than anything else.
And we're going to try to get a tire manufacturer on the podcast to go into a little more detail just because I think we're both curious about the ins and outs of this whole tire business. So um, it would be, if we can get somebody on, that would be awesome to have them explain it in more detail.
Yeah, if we're trying to get Michelin or Goodyear on, both of them deal with RVs. They both have like an RV dedicated tire. So we would like to get one of those two companies on and talk to them not only about the cargo and the ply, but just the different types of rubber, the components, speed ratings. Yeah, I think tires are kind of one of the more important parts of our vehicles for sure. Some are snow rated all season. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. Uh, I I never even knew that there was I always thought that these two words were interchangeable, but an all season and an all weather tire are not the same thing. I always thought they were, but an all weather will actually have a cold rating on them, and an all season does not. They're
Yeah.
So an all season they consider actually to be a 3-season tire. all-weather tire is considered to be a 4-season tire. And I never knew that before.
Okay. I didn't know
Yeah.
that either.
Yeah. Who knew?
Yeah.
If you don't know, Sean, nobody knows. That's how I always look at it.
Yeah, it's there's so many things that you don't think about when you're RVing that actually turn out to be pretty detailed and very important in the overall scheme of things.
Yeah. A lot of safety. We should always be more safety conscious when driving our RVs than anything else, because they are, one, large vehicles, like you said, difficult to stop, and two, for the size of the vehicles they are, for the weight that we tow, nobody requires a CDL, special training. Anybody can go to an RV dealership and hop in a 40-foot diesel pusher and drive it home that day. No questions asked. Have you ever driven a vehicle this size? They might get out of a Fiat and hop right into a diesel pusher for the very first time and drive it home. Nothing is, you just do it on a regular license.
Yep. Scary.
So it's scary when you think about it that way. Yeah, it's. I think Texas has some type of rule on the size of the motorhome that they do require a CDL, but I think it has to be over 40 foot. I think it would have to be like your setup with your Cyclone, where you were the truck plus 42 feet.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's a lot.
it's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah.
We bought ours down in Tampa, Florida, and I had never driven. I'd driven like little moving trailers,
Mhm.
like little U-Haul things, but I had never driven anything like that. And we drove it. We picked it up and drove it from Tampa, Florida, all the way up to Virginia.
Oh, it's a good drive.
Never having done it before.
It's scary the first couple hundred miles.
Yeah.
It's a little nerve wracking. You're like hyper aware would be my term. Because I remember the first time I drove this, I was really tired after the first drive. And it was because I was just so concentrated, like every little bit of wind, every car that would try to maneuver around me and slow down in front. Like it was exhausting.
Yeah.
And it still is a little bit, because I wouldn't say I'm never relaxed, because one of my favorite things is to drive the RV. Sabrina always says that I have this goofy smirk on my face every time I drive the RV, because I do love driving the RV, and I love the field of view that we have, and just being able to see all the little knuckleheads in front of us trying to weave in and out of traffic. So I do enjoy it. But that being said, I am more alert in the RV. I'm not on my phone. I'm not eating. I might have my coffee or something like that, but I am like paying attention to mirrors. I'm looking all around me. I'm just waiting for somebody to do something stupid near me, is I guess the best way to say it. I'm just waiting for that to happen.
Hyper alert.
Just hyper alert. Yeah, just hyper alert. I got my spidey senses going.
So what do we got coming up, Kenny?
So our next episode is TDS Ladders. And I was really excited about this. So TDS Ladders is a company that is a factory direct for Little Giant ladders. And that was why I was so excited. One, I didn't really know what it entailed to become a factory direct dealer for a company. And the other thing is that I own a Little Giant ladder. So I was really excited to have him on the show to really talk about Little Giant ladder. I've had it for a little over 5 years. I've had it the whole time we've been RVing. And to me, in my opinion, which doesn't really mean much, but I think it's the best ladder for RVers. We keep it in our cargo bay. It extends to the point that I can get up on my roof. It does an A-frame configuration, so I feel very stable on it. And we talk more about it with Chris, but we talked to Chris Procopio, who's the owner of TDS Ladders, and he explains to us, what does it mean to be factory direct? How did that happen? How did he become a factory direct for Little Giant? And he had a lot of helpful information for us. I think he taught us a couple things about ladders and business and things like that, which Sharon and I always appreciate. But apparently he appreciated being on the show also. And starting April 1st, he's giving us a discount code, RV100. So if you go to TDS Ladders and use the discount code of RV100, you'll get a $100 discount. I was so excited when he emailed this to us, because that's huge. So you'll get a $100 discount on the brand new Epic Little Giant Ladder system. And it's a bundle package. And we talk about what's the difference between what I have in my RV and the Epic. And yeah, just like the name says, it is pretty epic. It's a nicer system than I have. I don't want to discount my Little Giant. I do love my Little Giant, but if this was out at the time, I would have went with this one because it's got, we'll talk about, but it has little extensions and you can maneuver around windows and doors a lot easier than you can with mine. So
Yeah, I like just the small footprint because, we have limited storage and they fold up so small that it's really good for
yeah,
our.
very compact, all aluminum, makes it light, except for some of the parts are steel where it needs structure. I mean, my ladder is 4 years old. I use it constantly and it still looks brand new. Like, I don't think I say Little Giant ladder is probably the best ladder for RVers. I think it's the best ladder, just period. I don't even think it's really an RV thing, but yeah, I love the Little Giant. So yeah, I was really excited to have Chris on. And then I'll let you talk about this next part because Chris also introduced us to a new product during that episode called Eyes on Us.
Yeah, and this was my new favorite in safety gear for anybody really that drives on the road, and it's a like a flashing light that replaces the roadside flares. And the nice thing is that it's like 360, so the part that's going out to the traffic can be a red flasher, and then the part that's shining back on your vehicle can be a clear light, a white light that is going to illuminate you and your vehicle. So I hadn't seen anything like this before, and they come with you can get them with a cone where there's a magnet in the cone and they'll stick on top of the cone so it's elevated off the road. And I think you said they were made by a state trooper.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they didn't like the road flares, and so this state trooper invented these, and they are probably the coolest roadside lights I've seen.
Yeah. I like them a lot too. And Sean and I are always appreciative of things that do not waste. So with like a road flare, you light it, it burns, then you throw it away. Whereas this is a system that you'll be able to reuse over and over again. And it'll actually outperform the road flare as well because it's providing you light to show what you're working on if you were pulled over. And it's giving you safety lights as well. It's a nice, really nice system.
And then after that episode, we have Roadmaster Active Suspension. And Nolan from Roadmaster came on and talked to us about their product. And it's really designed to, like he said, set it and forget it. You put it onto your leaf springs and you don't really have to worry about it after that. And they're designed to outlast your vehicle, and it really does make the ride more comfortable when you're towing. And they work kind of in tandem with a weight distribution hitch in improving, I guess I don't know the word, they work together to make those improvements even more.
Yeah, I think you got it right. The tandem part, the Roadmaster Active Suspension, I think is giving you a more comfortable ride in the truck itself or the vehicle that you're using to tow with or without towing, but then matched up with a weight distribution hitch. Then the distribution hitch is amplifying your comfort level with the towing, and the suspension is giving you that more comfortable ride, less sway in your own vehicle when you're turning. So yeah, it sounds like a great product, and we were lucky to have Nolan come on and kind of explain the history of Roadmaster Active Suspension and tell us how it works and stuff like that. Really a nice product also.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to re-listening to those episodes when they come out.
Yeah, so Sean, that's kind of a fun little behind the scenes fact or behind the scenes, I guess fact, yeah. I guess I am still, even though we are several episodes into this, when we are interviewing somebody, I'm listening to what they're saying for maybe a question that I have to send them, or you're asking a question. I'm thinking of a new question. So a lot of times I will miss what the guest has to say, but I pick up on it when we go through the editing process. Well,
Yeah.
when I say when Sean goes through the editing process, he sends it to me to take a listen to see if I have any changes. But I really enjoy listening back and be like, oh, I don't remember Nolan saying that, or I don't remember Chris saying that, because I
Right.
was busy thinking of the next question. So
Yeah.
sometimes I'll miss some of the facts about how the company got started. So I do enjoy re-listening to the episodes again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's all we wanted to cover today, right?
That's everything. We'll be back in 2 weeks from this Thursday uh, with TDS Ladder. And we just want to wish everybody safe travels. And as always, we want to thank our sponsors, Battleborn Batteries. Sean and I both have Battleborn batteries in our RVs, and they actually make life on the road easier for both of us. I think I can say that for you too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they've been great. Great company. If you're thinking about upgrading your battery system and looking into lithium and increasing your battery capacity, definitely check out Battleborn Batteries at battlebornbatteries.com.
Yeah.